Welcome to the Level Up Report, where this week we want to talk about how fast people just consume content or games in general. And I only wanted to talk about this because I've been going through WoW Classic, and I honestly thought I wouldn't like it or I think it wouldn't age that well. And here I am about 20 hours later, and I'm still playing it, and I'm enjoying it more and more every time I go back to it. But there was something that I noticed that was very different for the type of content in that game compared to modern games in general now. And it's how much I enjoy doing the really busy work and the grinding and just the back and forth kind of quests. So I think it's just interesting to me that I never bothered to look back and see myself because I usually end up speeding through games without me realizing it. But having played through Classic, I realize like there's a very different like pace for games that I haven't experienced in many years. So I want to hear what you think about it because you have a different playstyle from me.
Well, for me, thinking through my history of playing video games, I feel like nowadays, like today, right now, I have I'm spoiled. I have too many games to play. I have a lot to consume. It's just that as you get older, you have more money, so you could like collect, you could buy more. Versus as a kid, you only have like maybe one or two games. And going back, like I only play this one game. Like for example, Final Fantasy VIII. I play it thoroughly, 100% it as much as I can. I take my time and I enjoy it. I play it for at least several months. And it's not that I play like a couple hours a day. I play long hours a day. Like, 8 hours maybe if it's a good day. But versus now, like this year, just this year alone, for example, I was working playing through Dark Souls series. And I felt a couple times that I don't feel like, 100% in the game. I just feel like finishing the game.
Just
So
getting
you
through
just,
it.
yeah, just get it over with because there's something else I want to play.
Yep.
Or you have this feeling like if I don't beat it, I'm gonna drop it or I'll leave it in the back and forget about it. And I'm not the type of person that like to do that kind of. So like there's several times that I actually rush through a game, just play the story or and just try to get through it. Or another situation would be like Borderlands. So like if you play with friends, some people might be a little more ahead of you. So then you just play at their pace, and for some reason you end up going through the whole game as well really quickly. So it's just like maybe it's the culture and climate of the gaming now versus before it's just completely changed. So maybe that's why many people are just going through games really quickly now versus in the past.
Yeah, I think it's speed at what people consume this entertainment and just not just in this industry. It's also in especially shows. Because I could say probably ever since Netflix is when binging really took off for shows. Because you had all the games released, or all the shows, I mean, like the episodes released in one chunk, and you could watch it all. And I did that. So for games like this, I know they tried to release episodic content for like
Oh
Telltale
yeah.
games or like the new Hitman games. And after a while, people got sick of the episodic style because it's just one little bit at a time instead of usually people say, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna wait for the whole thing to release and then I'll play it. Which I was that way too. Because I don't want to play just one mission here and there or play only 1 hour or two and then have to wait like 3 or 4 months in between each episode. So I'd rather play it all in one lump. So I think it's just the trends of how it is. You just don't piecemeal it like that.
I feel like in addition to that, it also could be social media. You know how there's YouTube now and stuff like that. Maybe people are just scared of spoilers. Maybe that's why they just want to play and beat it before they could, something could get revealed to them, and
They
they
just
won't be happy
experience as
about it.
much as they can
Uh huh.
for other people.
Yeah. And also could be, for example, YouTubers. They trying to make a review, so they had to beat the game as fast as possible, so they could produce a video reviewing the game for their viewers. So that could be another reason why people rush through content.
Thing about that actually I find interesting is those YouTuber game reviewers that rush through content and everything. They act like the video game journalists, like those sites, because those guys rush through games too to get out the review on day one or like before day one to try to get as many views and everything. So I think that doesn't help either.
Mm-mm. But at the end of the day, it's all depend on the person. If that's how you play the game and you enjoy that kind of play style, I think it's fine.
I think it's also the fact that there's more variety of games and there's a lot more games out there available for anyone to play.
hmm
So like
And
you were saying,
also,
like you want to experience all those games, like if you end up playing one game, like one live service game that constantly updates every few months and you only stick with that game and then a brand new one pops out, then you go to that, play that game for a little bit, and then what I usually find and I end up doing is I bounce around like that. I used to do that with MMOs after I stopped playing WoW so hardcore. I
mhm.
just hop between MMOs to get my fix. So then I just
Mm.
hop between updates basically for these games and I consume all the content and then I get bored and then I drop that game and then I go to something else. So it's just a weird cycle that I'm guilty of.
Yeah, and it's really highly accessible because a lot of games nowadays are really cheap too, and really easy to get with like direct downloads from these platforms. So you don't
Right.
have to wait in line, go outside and stuff like that. So I can see why people have so much to consume and could like pick around and everything.
Yeah. I sometimes miss the days of not having as much money as I used to because I like I'd have to stick with the game I buy and hopefully it'll last me for months
hmm
because I can't afford anything else. It's like that's it. It's like I make that choice, I gotta stick with it. Nowadays, I make that choice like whatever. I could always get a new one.
hmm
But yeah, it's a weird issue. I don't know how you'd solve that. It's everyone's personal preference, like what speed they want to play the game, obviously. But I think we could afford to slow down a little for how fast we consume content in general. Because I think there's a unhealthy assumption when people do it this way.
I totally agree because like it put pressures on the developers. They're like, "Oh, I'm done. What's next?" And
Exactly.
they and yeah, and it makes the developers like, oh my god, like I gotta make something quickly, and it release like poor content that's not fully like constructed, and it just become a vicious bad cycle. Players are unhappy, developers are stressed out, overworked, they gotta give them time to make a good expansion, and people just gotta take their time and fully appreciate everything in the game that's has to offer.
What I think is the unfortunate answer to all this for developers, if they ever try to figure out or just wonder how much content would be enough to satisfy our player base, so they wouldn't be after a few hours or even a day or a week after or even a month after. They'll be like, okay, there's nothing else to do. That's all the new content. It's like, the answer is probably never, because people are just going to go through that content, blaze right through it. And those are those hardcore people, and you can't appease them. So they're going to consume that content, that's amount of speed, when they want to. So just find a healthy balance for it so that the content that they release is substantial enough that it'll appease at least a good amount of people. So that's gonna do it for this week. So thank you guys. We'll see you next time.